Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to look at how to create a virtual machine using the console GUI on Google Cloud. So the instance name, as you can see, I can give it a system default name, or I can re-edit it, or I can create a VM from an already existing template, or from another image that has already been created. The region I'm going to go for US Central 1, Iowa. The zone could be any. I prefer 1A. The zone is permanent. If I go to any, it's going to choose it on my behalf. And as you can see, there's a Gen AI prompt where I can do it, but I'm going to skip that. Then let's look at the machine type. I'm going to go with E2, which is the low cost. Then let's come to the preset. It's a 1 to 2 virtual CPU, 4 GB memory. If I were to go to the advanced configuration, I can add 2 virtual CPUs per core. There is just two, let's look at the custom. I can max it up to 32 cores, and the shared memory would go up to 128. So here it gives me an estimated bill, how much is it going to cost me, and looking at the number of virtual CPUs, that is a 16-core CPU with 128 GB memory, this looks like a good deal, but I think you can look up at spot VMs for a much cheaper price. But let's stick to the base 6 and let's look at the preset, and let's go to the provisioning model. Again, as I mentioned, the standard and spot. The spot VMs, as you know, are usually meant for fault-tolerant workloads. They're cheaper, and you can have a fleet of spot VMs and have any sort of fault-tolerant software that runs on it, and this makes your compute cheaper. Now let's look at the OS and storage. I've got a 10 GB by default. I can change it. I can add new disks. If I already have an existing disk, I can attach to it, or I can just deploy it as a container, maybe from a Docker artifact registry. Let's look at the data protection. I can have a backup plan scheduled over here. I choose no backups uh, because I don't intend to have a backup. The kind of replication that I want, I can have a synchronous and asynchronous. Let's just not delve into it. Let's look at the networking. These are the your default firewall rules and stuff. So you've got a network interface card that is assigned. This is a default network interface card. Have a look at the IP range, and let's look at installing an OPS agent for monitoring and logging. It's the checkbox is enabled by default, and let's look at security. I would like to divert your attention to the identity and API access. You can use a default service account, or you do not want to have a service account, you can use that. I have two default service accounts. One is for my app engine, the other one is for my compute engine. So I'm going to go with the default service account. You can choose without having a service account, and that's also fine. So the access scope for the service account, usually I would try to employ the principle of least privilege and go with the default access or restricted access. And let's look at delete protection. If I maintain delete protection, I cannot delete it by default. I would have to go to the settings of the deployed VM and disable the delete protection, and then only I'll be able to delete it. So for the time being, let me uncheck this checkbox. Any sort of keys I can add to it. Again, you've got your, similar to AWS, you've got, AWS managed keys. Here you have Google managed keys. You've got your customer managed keys, and so on and so forth. And for the type of compute instance I've configured, the sole tenancy option is not applicable. You would have to go to a higher tier or a specialized tier to enable sole tenancy. Now let's look at the equivalent code. This is going to give me a Terraform code. I prefer Terraform over the command line or REST API or whatever it is. These guys are specified. So let's stick with Terraform. I presume when you go to the official Terraform Direct website, you can get a better uh, details of it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's going to give me my resource. It's going to give me my instance device name, the initial parameters, the machine type. As you can see, it's E2 medium. Enable OS config is true. Networking interface. It's given over here a subnet. Any reservation affinity scheduling. The service account used is the default service account, and the scope is also mentioned here. As you can see, the scope is defined and clear. You could remember from the previous screen, it was default access. So these are the default access, that is your read-only logging, writing, and that's it. Then the OPS agent policies, as you can see, it is been enabled to the latest version, and your default tags, network tags, and the zone that I have selected for. Now, let's click on create using the GUI. And as you can see from the notification menu, it's circling. That means that it's still creating. I'll fast forward this. And let me connect to the SSH agent. And as you can see, a separate browser tag opens. So it's transferring the SSH keys. I'm using the there's multiple ways to SSH into your virtual machine. What I'm using is a I can use another SSH client. You can clearly see it from the window. I can use a GSuite util installed on my local command line, or I could use the default SSH connect button. There's a different jargon for it, I forgot. Now, as you can see, let's look at it. Let's say, what is the command? Let's look at ls sudo login. Now let's look at how to now let's look at how to stop or how to delete a particular virtual machine. Let me click on the running virtual machine. As you can see, there's a couple of IP, internal IP and external IP assigned to the network interface card, which you can see over here. Let's click on stop. I usually don't like graceful shutdown, so I'm just going to brute force this. So now since it's done, let me go. I could reset that, I could suspend it, but I would like to delete it. But before that, I would like to look at the observability tab. I've not run it enough, so there's not much information on it. Let's look at the last 15 minutes. So anyway, let me delete it. It's going to take some time. You can see it from the notifications tab. It is doing its job. Let me click on refresh. This virtual machine should have stopped. And as you can see, the canvas is empty. Let's look at the disks. If there's any disks attached to it, ideally it should be deleted. Any snapshots. Yeah, we are good to go. Thank you. Bye.